Wife made a new best friend this year and it's been putting our marriage through hell. But ITA, TLDR, combination of terrible grief, mental health issues, fighting, communication issues, and the involvement of another person to the detriment of the marriage, I believe, causing distance and strain on my marriage relationship. My wife and I, married 10 years in May, have gone through our roughest patch this year. 2021, my mum passed away. 2022, 2023, we had 4 miscarriages and learned she cannot safely carry children. And then at the end of 2023, her mum passed away. I'm 33, have struggled with anxiety and depression for many years, and last fall it was particularly bad. I made the bad call of trying some medication, family doctor prescribed, before going to therapy or anything like that. And it had an unexpectedly negative effect on our relationship. It sort of uncorked lots of repressed trauma, and I ended up taking it out on her more than I should have. For the first time in our marriage, for about 4 months, we had our first truly nasty screaming fights, sometimes as often as once or twice a week. I never laid a finger on her physically. Afterwards, I made sure she knew that it wasn't really about her, but about me processing trauma. But I also failed to protect her from what she now calls emotional abuse. It's hard not to feel like a scumbag. It didn't help that I didn't have anywhere else to go or anyone else to talk to. In the spring, she told me that she now felt closer to her new best friend than she does to me. And that hit me pretty hard, though I didn't think I was surprised and couldn't entirely blame her. That prompted me to taper off of the medicine ASAP and get myself in proper therapy, but the damage, I'm afraid, was done. My wife, 32, is a life skills teacher, and her best friend is a female para who's worked in her classroom for a couple years. They'd started hanging out more and more through the winter and started doing grown-up sleepovers, which at first I didn't think much of. I figured my wife probably needed a little bit of a break and a supportive friend. It took me a few weeks to taper off of the medicine, and I sort of thought in the back of my mind that things would just go back to normal, but they didn't. My wife's friend is very clingy. They text pretty much non-stop from morning until night. At its worst, I pretty much felt like I was never truly alone with my wife. In the winter-spring, she had started showering my wife with lovey-dovey heartfelt best friend gifts, such as matching bracelets, a "You're my best friend" nightlight, and a "You're my best friend" blanket with her face on it, which my wife then started cuddling with in our bed at night. So I started to get a little uncomfortable, thinking this didn't quite seem typical for a grown adult friendship. I asked my wife to maybe tone it down a little, starting with the sleepovers. I had a particularly bad feeling when she did those, but that only made things worse. We were still having bad fights, but instead of being caused by my mental health struggles, they were now about her new friendship and the sleepovers. I felt like my toes had been thoroughly stepped on as her husband, and felt that she was choosing her new friendship and sleepovers over repairing our relationship. She felt that I was controlling her and jealous. I guess maybe in some ways she was right. I felt I'd been replaced. In early summer, during an argument, she confessed that at one of their sleepovers, her and her friend had shared a few beers, 5 to be exact, and my wife hasn't drank alcohol for 8 years, made out, cuddled each other to sleep, and showered together the next morning. She swears nothing worse happened, that it was an accident, and that she established boundaries afterwards, though they still cuddle and hold hands as friends. I sort of freaked out and asked my wife to call her friend and end what I thought was a full-blown affair, emotional if nothing else. I listened as they both sobbed and cried about their relationship ending, and maintained to this day that what I witnessed was a breakup. My wife cried off and on through the night, blamed me and lashed out. I stayed with her and tried to comfort her. After that, we continued to fight about her friendship. I'd asked for a period of 0 contact outside of school, so that we can both stabilize and heal a little. I felt it was necessary if we were going to work on our marriage and our relationship, but she waited about 3 days before demanding free contact again, said that I had cut her off from her support system. The next few months were all about broken trust. My trust is broken. For obvious reasons, she said her trust was broken because of the way I'd acted while on the medicine and because of how I was controlling her with respect to her friend. 2 months later, the fighting has stopped, mostly because I've accepted that I can't force her to choose what I think is needed for our relationship to improve. They still text non-stop, have dinner and hang out, and have the occasional sleepover. My wife has explained that this friend reminds her very much of her mum and has become somewhat of an emotional substitute. I've begged my wife to do couples counseling with me, but she refuses. She doesn't need it. I'm the one who needs it. She says they have boundaries in place, which might be the case physically, but they have zero emotional boundaries. After her confession, I found that the more I resisted my wife's friendship, the more she dug her heels in. She's my best friend, and that's it. She talked about separating over this, a person who showed up in her life in the last year. My wife told me she promised her friend that she would always be her best friend, forever. Yeah, BFF, that's cute, and absolutely fine in a marriage, unless boundaries get crossed. Then it may or may not be in conflict with marriage vows. I still to this day feel as though she chose her friendship over our relationship as a married couple. Maybe I'm being petty. Atar? A little background about the friend. She's a little older than my wife. Her husband has passed away from cancer, and she blames herself for not advocating enough, she herself had said. She has worse mental health issues than I do. Wild theory. My wife has attached herself to this woman as a mum stand-in, and her friend has attached herself to my wife as a spouse stand-in, just speculating. I've pretty much decided to just ignore her odd behavior with her friend for the time being, chalking it up to a response she's having to the extraordinary grief we've both been through in a relatively short time. I feel incredibly distant from her emotionally, and right now it's hard for me to imagine that changing as long as her best fiend is in her life. We're in this weird position where we both pretty much feel like the other doesn't understand and doesn't care. The thing is, I do care. I just want my normal marriage back with no strings attached. She says it's just a normal friendship where boundaries got pushed, but it's okay now. She openly admitted that she had inappropriate feelings, but says that part of the relationship is done forever. My gut says otherwise. There have been a few times when my wife was showing me something on her phone, and her friend happened to text at the same time with some sort of coercive tactic to get my wife to go see her. My night sucks, but would be so much better if you were here, and just last week I could just really go for morning cuddles. I actually asked my wife, why don't you ever correct her when she says things like that to push boundaries? Why do you just ignore it? She said, I'm just not confrontational, and don't think it's that big of a deal. I dropped it. Again, I can't change what she thinks. She says it's fine and it's normal. I say that no one who is just a friend says things like that, and my wife is in denial. It's ridiculous, and probably the tip of the iceberg. I've also caught the friend slighting me. Have I misread or overreacted? Am I actually just jealous and paranoid? I don't know what to think of all of it. I'm willing to entertain the idea that my wife is deceived and in denial about the inappropriateness because of how badly she just wants the friendship to be normal, and the odd connection she's made between her friend and her decreased mom. But the friend, what kind of true friend would continue to push boundaries, continue to push for those sleepovers, fully knowing the strain it was putting on their friend's marriage? I find it impossible to believe her friend doesn't know what she was doing. It's hard not to see it as her getting my wife drunk and taking advantage, and continuing to take advantage, using my wife as an emotional bandage. I have to validate the good portions of the friendship, and don't doubt they've been very supportive to each other. Under normal circumstances, I'd say, good, I'm glad you have a supportive new best friend. But I think these circumstances are far from normal. Personally, I've been doing fine. Therapy has really been helping. I've let a lot of stuff go, including a lot more BS with my wife I didn't mention. And I feel happier and more at peace than I have in years. I'm just going on with my life, but I feel like there's a brick wall between my wife and I. Our day-to-day functioning is absolutely fine, and if this issue would just go away, we'd probably reconnect and be better than before. But because of it, or our own emotional intimacy is all but gone. I feel like I don't know her anymore. A lot about our expectations and communication has changed just in the last couple months, after being about the same for 9 years. A lot of married folks live as roommates and have been married for decades. I guess that's just not what I wanted. I'm hoping someone will tell me, bro, you need to take a chill pill. This is fine, NBD, it'll work out. If that's not the case, then what am I supposed to do about it? And is my marriage, as I knew it, fucked? Am I the asshole by perceiving the situation as threatening in the first place?